Welcome back, once again, to the realm of Final Fantasy XIV, bringing back a Dancing with Primals proper. And today we're going to be showing off one of the new endgame dungeons. We're going to let the duty roulette decide for us. Now, sadly, at this point, the duty roulette is actually taking its sweet time. So let's skip on forward, because right now there are only 2 dungeons offered. I was a little disappointed that there wasn't at least a third. But hey, what are you gonna do? Yay. I don't like... In order to record Final Fantasy XIV, I can't record at full resolution easily. It lags the game way too hard and makes it hard for me to play. So I had to reduce the resolution down, but I really don't like how much it compresses and messes with my UI. It'll probably be a work in progress to get this to a point that I can deal with. But of the 2 dungeons, we end up in Neverreap. Perhaps my least favorite of the 2 dungeons, but what are you gonna do? Right up at the very beginning, you'll find a Vanu that gives you 5 eggs. These eggs need to be used on that pedestal. Doing that will actually open up the wind turbine thing, what will shoot you to the next area. Now, these cannot be used as long as there are enemies in the area, so clear out all the enemies, and on we go. Now, in this group of enemies, the tank just died. We're off to a great start! In this group of enemies, though, your first priority should be taking out the Neverreap Wamora, if only because it's bigger and scarier than everything else, but also because it has a really big conal AoE that's just a pain in the butt to deal with. Now, in beating up all of these things, I am, of course, going to be trying to take out that Wamora first. We had it almost dead. It's better than changing targets in the middle of everything. The healer's dead now, too, so that's good news. We're left now with a whole bunch of buzzards and tokos, none of which do anything terribly remarkable, and to be honest, at this point, it would probably be a better idea for me to try to run away or get somewhere where they wouldn't aggro me after the rest of the party wipes. But I know that I've actually used AoEs in this fight, so I have some degree of hate on all of them. So I'm going to die if we don't kill them. So I'm going to hold my own, gaddanggit, and I'm going to fight my fightest fight that I can fight, and kill as many of these things as I can. Sadly, without somebody tanking them for me, I'm lucky to be able to go one-on-one with one of these things. But what are you going to do? I managed to last long enough that the rest of the party... And the tank just died again. That the rest of the party managed to res itself and come back and do its thing, and I am still killing as many of these as I can. And every single one of these that we knock out is one less that's beating on us while we're trying to recover. Let me tell you, this did not leave me hopeful for the events of the rest of this dungeon. I have never seen a problem this bad this early on in a dungeon. Thankfully, the rest of the dungeon does go pretty well, spoilers. So, this is, as far as I can tell, a fluke of some form. Tank said he didn't have his tank stance on, but that just generates hate? I don't see why he died. Like, the tank shouldn't have died because he didn't have his tank stance on. If anything, he should have lost hate, and everybody else should have died. I don't know. I don't understand things. But once you kill all of them, you can go up to the Cloud Altar and use your next Thunder Egg, which will open up another vortex in the middle of the donut of land here, which will carry us to our next destination. Now, the next destination is interesting because there's all these tornadoes fluttering about. So you've got to worry about them. Now, they won't actually... This first one won't actually come all the way down here, so you're safe moving just forward. However, the tornado you can see just directly in front of us off in the distance will come down far enough to give you some trouble. You can grab them. Usually, people try to grab the second group a little further up and just bring all of them down and AoE them all down. Sadly, I'm a monk. I don't have the greatest AoE in the world. Thankfully, with Elixir Field, I've been given a much, much better AoE. but in the long run, I still don't have the greatest AoE in the world, so I'm going to be single-targeting them down. A lot of people seem to target the blue buzzards first, and I beg of you, kill the Swordus first. They're constantly using a circular AoE around themselves that is constantly making all melee run in and out of the fight constantly. I've used the word constantly a lot, because it's really annoying. Please, I beg of you, kill them first so that melee can, and the tank for that matter, can continue to do their job. Okay, with that rant out of the way, we won't be seeing any more Swordus after this. This is the only spot they appear in the entire dungeon. But after you kill them, we're going to run up and grab the next group of enemies. Now, every tank that I've seen handles this next group of enemies in a different way. I've seen one tank pull them just a little bit beyond, right about where I am now. Bring all the enemies back there and fight them. Because the tornado up here doesn't go back that far, the tornado in back doesn't go forward that far. That actually looked about like where he was pulling them. You can also pull them, maybe it is where he's pulling them, okay. Another place is where I actually thought the tank was going to pull them, which was right up top. There's a big rock in the corner, which I think is where most of the party ran to, thinking that that's where he was going to pull them. And I've seen them pulled there a lot. But that aside, still Wamoras, Tokotokos, nothing we haven't seen already. Those were the final enemies in the immediate area. Yeah, right up there where they're standing. Those were the final enemies in the area, which means we can actually use our next egg on the thing, which brings us to the first of 3 bosses. He's got a long name. If you want to go absolutely all out on him, you do have a brief moment in the beginning where you can really lay into him and get off a good get off a really good opening high damage combo. However, after not too long, you see he conceals himself in the clouds. It gives you a moment if you want to put buffs or anything back up, but you, honest to goodness, just have to run around the arena until you find him. If you see that white circle around him, this is his shadow, not actually him now, but if you see that white circle surrounding him, if you leave that circle, if you're not within that circle, he disappears, and you cannot target him, effectively leaving you to go find him again. But you, with any luck, your memory should be good enough to remember where he was. After you kill the shadow, though, he disappears, the area clears, and the boss himself comes back down, giving you another chance to really wail on him for a bit. As far as what the boss himself does, he's got a Feather Rain-like ability, a couple large AoEs that you'll want to keep an eye out for. He also will periodically summon, or just raid damage there, he will also periodically summon a number of feathers, which are situated around the arena and need to be DPS down. If you don't take them out within an amount of time, they will actually explode, dealing a rather large amount of damage to everybody. Honest to goodness, though, I've eaten a feather and a half. I don't know if how much health they have actually determines how much damage they do to you when they go. But I've eaten a feather and a half, and it's nothing to really write home about. It's an amount of damage, but don't worry about it that much if you can't. It's not the end of the world if you can't kill one in time, is what I'm trying to say. And that's when you see the mark there that says his feathers rain down from the sky, and we're out taking them down. They don't do anything, and they die exceptionally quickly, so it's not too much to even worry about in that regard. Boss himself should be reappearing, and this should be, with any luck, the final round. I don't think he'll disappear again. But that's effectively it for the fight. Nothing too big. Stay out of AoEs, kill ads when he disappears into clouds, chase his sorry butt down. Until then, I'm going to keep hammering on him. I tend to save my cooldowns if I have them for actually him. Near the end of the fight, he'll start summoning feathers while he's not in shadow. He's probably going to be killed before I'm even done dealing with these feathers, but I like to kill him anyway because I don't like getting hit by a lot of damage. But killing him will net you your small reward, as well as 2 pieces of loot. Now this is something I haven't spoken of yet, but these 2 dungeons, currently in the expert queue, both drop item level 160 gear. These dungeons are easily doable with a character at the item level that you are leaving the main story, the main scenario. Of course, you can only unlock these after you complete the main scenario, so there's that. But these drop item level 160 gear, which is a nice stepping stone to get you up towards the higher level gear that you'll be getting, say, with the tomestones that you get for beating this. Now, once you're done with that, moving on, you'll see a couple Voondu and a couple totems. These do very typical Voondu and totem things, so there's not really a lot to worry about there. To be honest, personally, I kill the Voondu first and then the totems, but I don't think it matters too much. I haven't seen an especial preference one way or the other. Now, I forget what the 2 tomestones that you get out of this are. There's Law, and I don't remember the other one. You will get far more of the other than you will of Law, though, and the other will actually let you go out and purchase item level 170 gear, and then the Law, which will take a very long time for you to get much of anything, lets you purchase item level 190 gear. Really high up there. Now, right after you're done with them, in the next area, there are a couple Divine Vespas. These are typical bee enemies, so you don't want to spread damage. The biggest threat out of these guys is the final sting. So you don't want to spread damage, you want to focus them down one at a time, and while you're focusing that one down, just keep an eye out for if he readies final sting and stun it. Simple as that. Now, also in this area, and enemies you may grab simultaneously, is 2 more Divine Vespas, as well as a rather large treant. The rather large treant does rather large treant things. He has a large conal in front of him, as well as an AoE surrounding himself. Even if the Vespas are there, as long as you don't touch them, they won't use Final Sting, and in turn, they're not that big a threat. The tree, on the other hand, makes fighting very annoying because you have to get around his various AoEs. So, if you manage to fight him at the same time as some Vespas, hands off the Vespas, kill the tree. And the tank has decided to haul that Vespa up to the next group of enemies. You'll also notice there's a couple chests every now and then. One of the other party members is grabbing them, but they're mostly on the path. Just keep your eyes open. And that'll be more item level 160 here. Accessories, mostly, but I think we got something else out of that. The tank hauled that Vespa up here, though, and of course I tried to finish killing that Vespa because it was almost dead, and I don't know why the tank ran off. But up here, you'll simply find more Voondu and more Totem, as we fought before, so kill them down as you will. Did I mention the totems have a big circular AoE? I mean, you've encountered totems if you fought your way through the main story. I think you only encountered them in a side quest. But still, they have a big circular AoE. It's not surrounding themselves. I think they can plant it in other places. So that was the gear that we found just kind of laying around. We come to our second boss, another Vanu. Kanu Vanu. That's a name. Is that his name? It's hard to read from here. Let's say Kanu Vanu. It's hilarious sounding. This Vanu will once again do not terribly anything of note. You saw a conal there. He casts Morrowind, which puts a really, really nasty poison on you. So be aware of that. The main mechanic of the fight, though, is this totem mechanic. When he casts the spell, it'll put a marker over your head, and when the spell is finished casting, it will summon a Vanu totem as the ones you see about there, directly on where you are. I'm yet to see if there's really a way to not get hit by one. But these totems are now sitting around the arena, wherever you were. He then casts a rather large purple AoE, circular AoE. When he's done casting, which you can see the AoE there, when he's done casting, if there are any totems within that circle, the totem will become an enemy, not just an NPC object. And as an enemy, it actually tethers back to the Vanu and will make him invincible until the totem is killed. The totem doesn't have a lot of life, but it does hit hard. I'm not sure if it hits hard or if it can cast Morrowind or something to that degree as well, but there's something it does that really hurts. But even with that said, I can still solo a totem, and then once it's dead, you can go back to work on the Vanu proper. But that's effectively the fight. Wail on him, you may get hit by stuff that hurts every now and then. Drop totems. If they're in the purple thing, get them out of the purple thing. All you have to do is walk up to it, right-click on it, it'll give you the option to pick it up. You then carry it outside of the arena, hit a button, and you set it down. You've seen me do it a couple times, and you'll see me do it again in the future. Like right here. Pick it up, carry it outside, it's set down, and then you can go back in and start beating on that boss once again. And that's the fight. That's pretty much your main mechanic. Just make sure the totems aren't in the purple thing and you're good to go. If a totem does happen to be at the purple thing, you just gotta kill a guy before you can go back to fighting the boss. More item level 160 gear. They really want to make sure you're decked out in 160 stuff. Like, they want to get you up to a point where you can function in endgame pretty quickly. So there's a chest, got another item, and we come to the final section of the stage. I don't know why, there's a lot of things I just don't like about this stage, and I don't like this part of it. I don't know why. Like, there's nothing objectively wrong with it, it's just enemies you beat, just like any other section. More Divine Wasps, this time, not Divine Vespas, but they act like bees nonetheless, so treat them as such. The Hakulak, or what have you, that guy is typically what everyone focuses down first. And to be honest, I didn't know why for the longest time. It didn't make sense to me. I figured kill the bees first, they're more dangerous. But the main reason is just because he uses an AoE, and it just makes running around and dodging more tricky. So not only are there the wasps, there's the Hakulak, and then there's a couple crab types enemies, something shell. Mithrite shell, I don't know. A couple of them, they all do typical things. Nothing you haven't experienced before. Maybe they use an AoE every now and then, but I don't even think, aside from the Hakulak, they even do that. The other interesting thing about this area you'll note is occasionally a water spout will shoot up out of the ground. If you're standing in that, you actually get inflicted with the dropsy effect. Now, the dropsy effect puts a water filter over the screen, so it looks like you're underwater, and it also does a very slow damage over time. To be honest, it's almost negligible. I kind of like standing in those just because it's funny, but don't do that. That's bad on the healers. So running into the next area, you'll notice the same enemies. Hakulaks, wasps, mithrite shells. You'll also notice two Dalmals, which the Dalmals actually were back in the previous section, and you could kill them and then move on and grab everybody else, but the tank said, heck with that noise, I'm grabbing everything at once. And boy, did he. But regardless, the only thing new here is the Dalmals, and they fight like Dalmals. They have a front conal AoE, and that's about the biggest thing that they do. There we are, with everything dead, the barrier goes away. At one point we used a Thunder Egg, and I'm not sure where, because we were carrying one around for a while. But that takes us to the final boss of the dungeon. You don't have to worry about, you can jump, you can walk off that, whatever, it'll boost you over to the arena. Be very careful in this arena, by the way, because you can fall off and die. So do be careful. In fact, there is something that the boss does specifically that will make use of that, but we'll get to that when we get to it. This boss, much like the first two, actually does give you an amount of time at the beginning to really go at it if you want to knock out some really big, like, starting damage. But not long into the fight, he'll summon a Divine Mist. The Divine Mist, it's nothing to really write home about. It's stationary, it won't move around, but it will cast water on a target. In fact, I'm quite sure you can't pull hate off of that target. You'll see the target reticule around the character. I'm pretty sure it'll just keep attacking that person. So, kill it so you're not eating damage. From there, we go into this in-between phase where he summons a number of Divine Gales, kill them, and then he does this AoE, which has a rather large knockback to it. Very important there that you stand with the greatest distance between you, in a straight line between you, him, and the edge of the arena. Like, if he's on the edge of the arena, look at him and point your back towards the middle of, like, the big area of the arena. You just don't want to get knocked off, so make sure you're going to get knocked back in a way that won't shoot you right off the edge. With that done, a bunch of tornadoes spawn now, so that's just something else you have to dance around with, and let me tell you how irritating this is when I'm just trying to freaking punch him, and I go flying in the air every time I turn around. When you get, these tornadoes, by the way, they don't do a lot of damage if you get in one. It's more irritating than anything. But it will flip you up in the air and land you on the ground later. So we have the Divine Mist. We're back to killing the Divine Gales as well. The Divine Gales do not attack. They are simply there. When they're all killed, the boss will go back to doing its rather large AoE. And in the meantime, you'll notice the boss has a shield around him, and he's simply flying around the arena. If he rams into you, you get hit by an attack that does hurt. So try to avoid him as he's running about the arena. There's a lot of avoiding moving things that hurt you. You don't want to get hit by the twisters. You don't want to get hit by him. These tornadoes are the most annoying thing. Like, it's hard to tell where their bottom is, and I find myself, I always get caught by one, even if I'm trying not to. You see the, he also has a big raid-wide AoE there, just a bunch of water damage that went out, nothing to write home about. That's, for the most part, the fight. Dodge twisters as they show up, DPS him down. When the Divine Mist shows up, kill the Divine Mist. When the Gales show up, he'll put a shield around himself, kill the Gales to get him to take a shield down. He'll do a knockback that'll attempt to knock you off the edge when he's done with that mess, but just put your back to the biggest area and you should be safe. Rinse, repeat. And thus we end Neverreap! Until next time, everyone, we've gotten our item level 160 gear, as well as all of our tomestones of esoterics and law both. Until next time, everyone.